Precision medicine has spent 2 decades solving the sequencing problem. But what if sequencing is no longer the bottleneck? Welcome to Precision Health Decoded. I'm Kathleen Barnes. This is where we move beyond the hype of innovation and examine the architecture required to turn data into decisions and decisions into impact. Today, I want to talk about a debate that came up a few weeks ago about whether sequencing is still the bottleneck in precision health. In a post, I highlighted a headline that, on the surface, sounds like a classic David versus Goliath story in genomics engineering. So a scrappy San Diego startup recently unveiled a $100 whole genome sequencer, positioning itself to challenge Illumina's NovaX, a roughly $1 million instrument already capable of delivering genomes at about $200 each. Now, on paper, that sounds revolutionary, cutting the cost of a genome in half, making sequencing smaller, cheaper, more competitive. And let's be clear, competition at the instrument layer is healthy. It pushes innovation, it drives costs down, and it democratizes access. But a few weeks ago, I posted something that sparked a debate. Sequencing may no longer be the bottleneck in precision health. The responses were thoughtful and divided. Some argued assay design remains the constraint. Others emphasized multiomics and functional readouts. Others pointed to governance, access, system design. That debate is exactly why this episode matters, because here's the deeper question. If we can already sequence a human genome for a few $100s, why hasn't precision medicine transformed population health at scale? Sequencing was the bottleneck for 2 decades. Overcoming it was extraordinary, but the constraint has shifted. And if we continue investing as though it hasn't, we may be optimizing the wrong layer of the system. Think about it. For 20 years, sequencing chemistry and throughput were the structural limitation. We went from billions per genome to millions to thousands to now hundreds. That arc represents one of the most remarkable cost curves in modern science. The first era of precision medicine asked a simple question: can we generate the data? That question has largely been answered. Now we face a different one. Can we govern, integrate, and act on it? Because the real limitation in precision health today isn't chemistry. It's systems, it's phenotype harmonization, longitudinal data linkage across institutions, embedding genomic insight into clinical workflows, consent frameworks built for secondary use, reimbursement alignment, clinical training, clinician training, designing care environments where insight can realistically influence a 15-minute visit. We can generate extraordinary amounts of data. At least 2 million humans have already had their whole genomes sequenced, likely more. We can run multi-omic pipelines that were unimaginable 20 years ago. But generating data and transforming healthcare are not the same thing. In healthcare, cost reduction doesn't automatically equal impact. Adoption requires integration. And here's where we risk repeating history. We're doing the same thing with AI. AI is being positioned as the next revolution in healthcare. And to be clear, AI is powerful. But AI is an enabler. It's not the solution in and of itself. AI amplifies whatever system it enters. If the data are harmonized, incentives are aligned, governance mature, AI can accelerate that insight. But if the architecture is fractured, AI institutionalizes fragmentation. The problem isn't that our models aren't sophisticated enough. The problem is that our systems aren't coherent enough. So the real question isn't whether our algorithms are powerful, it's whether the environment we're placing them into is actually ready. I think the responses to this conversation reveal something important. So some believe assay design remains the constraint. Others argue we have to move beyond static genomic blueprints toward functional multiomic readouts. Others emphasize equitable access, ethical governance, and real-world clinical utility. These aren't opposing ideas, they're signals. Signals that the field is transitioning. We're moving from a platform era to a systems era, from instrument optimization to infrastructure design. So, what signals tell us the constraint has shifted? First, the instrument layer is maturing. When startups can challenge incumbents, when costs drop from $200 to $100 per genome, that signals technological stabilization. Second, I would argue systems haven't matured at the same pace. Most health systems can't harmonize phenotype data across institutions. Longitudinal records remain fragmented. Rich clinical insight is buried in the free text. Genomic results aren't consistently structured in the electronic medical records or EMRs. And clinicians operate under extreme time compression. These aren't scientific limitations, but they are architectural. Third, I would argue we risk confusing technological acceleration with system transformation. So think of it this way. We're optimizing the microscope while neglecting the health system. In a lot of institutions today, the bottleneck isn't sequencing capacity, it's structuring phenotype data, it's building longitudinal coherence, it's earning clinician trust in decision support. It's aligning incentives so insight changes behavior. You can sequence millions of genomes, but if those insights never reach the bedside, or if they fail to influence decisions, I would argue the value plateaus. So when I see a startup cutting the cost of a genome from $200 to $100, I see progress. I see competition, I see engineering excellence, but I also see a field that may still be optimizing the instrument layer, while the larger opportunity lies in building durable systems. Cheaper sequencing is good, smarter AI is good, but neither substitutes for infrastructure, neither substitutes for governance, and neither substitutes for coherent system design. Technology enables progress, systems determine whether that scales. The first era of precision health proved that we could decode biology. The second era must prove that we can deploy it responsibly. The next decade won't belong to whoever builds the cheapest sequencer, and it won't belong to whoever trains the largest model. It will belong to whoever builds the most coherent system. So here's the question I'll leave you with today. If you had $1 billion to invest in precision health tomorrow, would you allocate it more to sequencing innovation or to building phenotype harmonization networks, longitudinal data infrastructure, governance frameworks, and clinician-ready decision support? Because whichever we choose, that will determine whether precision health remains a technological achievement or if it becomes a population-level transformation. That distinction may define the next era of precision health. Thanks for listening to Precision Health Decoded.